There we go. Now we are live. So yeah, welcome again to the Harbor Office Hours here. Chovik, did you have any questions?
The thing is, right now I'm working at CERN, and here we are using GitLab right now as our main repository, and we are using the default container registry right now, and we are planning to move to Harbor for the better vulnerability scanning and everything. So the thing is, we want to integrate Harbor with the GitLab CI using tokens. And I've been going around checking the GitHub repository and the issues and all. And there have been quite a few issues regarding this, but there's not a solution, like a complete solution from Harbor side. So that's what I wanted to discuss here.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's good you mentioned that. I actually know a customer from us which was doing or trying something similar a few months ago. Um, I think we will just have to reprioritize that with the Harbor team, I guess. I mean, that's not something I can answer, right? If it's not working, it's not working. Um, and I actually didn't test it myself to see the issues. So um, there are tickets open, right? You said, or is that not the case? I think nobody from the Harvard team, development team, is actually in the call, but it's pretty easy to talk to them and see if we can, yeah, get that fixed.
Yeah, there are like issues open. If you want, I can add those issues on the chat in the
Yeah,
Zoom
that would
meeting.
help. That would help. How did you actually set up Harbor yourself?
So we haven't yet set it up right now. We are planning to migrate to Harbor, but we are seeing. So our main requirement is to be able to authenticate using tokens, and for that, right now we are doing the investigation, like if it's possible or if it's not. So yeah, that's what we are doing right now.
Yeah, I can actually show you how I just set up Harbor, I think 5 minutes before this call, how I did it. I mean, there are many possibilities to do that. Um, our own testing, I think, is using the offline installer because I mean it's very easy to script. You just have a Linux VM or a host or wherever, and you just have a few, let's say, steps to go through. I can show you that in a second. If you have Kubernetes running somewhere, of course, you can use the Helm charts. I mean, there are different ones. I would say the official ones and also the ones from Bitnami, which normally have more stuff added. And this is also really fully tested. The third option, this one actually I cannot show yet because it's really new and I didn't play with it myself, is using the Harbor operator. I think that's probably the future of also the installation on Kubernetes because you can have Postgres high availability and all these components in the backend. I mean, if you have to set up that on your own, it's a lot of work, and the Harbor Helm charts don't do that. But the operator framework is I would say the future for the installation. And I mean, there are other ways. There is a tile in one of our products. I mean, but this is not really the point here, which is using Bosch to set up the VMs and install Harbor. So basically, I'm testing all the free setups right now, and the operator is on my list. But as I said, I can show you how I do it. It's really simple. The offline installer is really simple to use, but of course you have to set up the certificates first, right? I mean that's the major step. If you don't use certificates and all this stuff all day long, I mean, each time I have to really look up the OpenSSL commands to do it on my own or use other frameworks. But anyway, just put them in the chat. That would be nice to see the tickets because that was actually, I mean, I don't know, in one of the announcements we had that this should work. So I'm actually surprised that it doesn't. But that would help me if you send me the link to the issues. can then talk to the development team. So yeah, my installation actually, I just had, I mean, you see it's, I didn't write a script yet, right? But this is actually all the steps I just executed. I can do it again, but I mean, probably it's no sense of doing that. I'm just creating my own certificate authority, creating a signing request with OpenSSL and then signing it with my own one. And this is just certificate stuff, right? I mean, you probably have your own way of doing that. What I normally do is here to add alternate names, because I see many also products from companies which are not doing that right. So I can actually access it through the full DNS name, the short name, and also the IP address. I mean, that's really important. And basically I copy all the stuff to the /data directory, because that's where Harbor will actually save all the the data. And you also have to copy, you see it here in that step, the certificate you created above to that download directory. Otherwise, you will not be able to get the certs from the API which Harbor is exposing. I mean, you know, Harbor has a huge API. There are CLI tools to talk to that. I mean, one is also webhooks to see what's going on.
Tom?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you share your screen?
Oh, I'm a complete idiot here because I forgot to share my screen.
For you, man.
Thank you. That helps indeed. So let's go through the steps again. So again here, right? I mean, I create my SSL directory. I'm creating a certificate authority, and that's something actually on the Ubuntu system I was using, which I didn't know that you have to create this random file, just touch it. Otherwise, the OpenSSL will give you error messages. It's weird, but that's how it is. So I create my certificate request, signing request, I sign it. And as I said, this is a step I was just explaining, alternate names, that I really use the DNS names and the IP address. So it's really fully accessible the way I want it. And then basically I copy everything to this data cert directory. That's important. And also this certificate to the download page. I will show that in a second, because then you can go to the UI and download it or do a curl command or whatever. So, and yeah, here you see where I copy all this stuff, right? I mean, it's all explained in the documentation, which is very good from Harbor, but the certificate stuff, honestly, personally, I'm always struggling with that. Sometimes it works, sometimes not. If you look at documentation from different parts, it's always a little bit different, and sometimes I'm actually struggling myself to get it running. But anyway, I mean, I can put that somewhere on GitHub if you want to have that, or maybe in the meeting notes. Then I get the offline installer. I mean, just the latest one. I'm really always on the latest. You have to know here, and that's probably important. You know, we have releases, right? These are tested, and the update mechanism is also tested. So you know when you go from Harbor 2.0 to 2.1 that actually the upgrade will work, because it could be that in the Postgres database we are changing some properties or adding things, whatever. So we are changing the schema of the database, and this is only really tested from GA to GA release. And between them, with this let's say latest build, this is not done, and it could be that it will fail, and then it will fail forever, right? I mean, then you have to go and actually delete this data directory or the Postgres data, so it will be recreated. That's something I run into myself, and I really didn't understand that. So that's all. You unpack it. Then basically you go to the Harbor YAML configuration, and of course that's a whole thing in itself, right? I mean, there are many properties you can set, and the the Helm chart does the same, right? I mean, you just specify it differently. What I normally add, as you see here, the certificate pass, because you need that. Maybe a password, and yeah, some other stuff, log rotation. If you the components here, you see it's Trivy, Claire for the scanning engine, sub engines, job and service and core. But as I said, I just use that as my default, and then you basically do an install with Trivy, with Chartmuseum, with Claire, with Notary, so you have everything. Just wait, but you need Docker Compose to be installed for that. So that's actually what did not work just 5 minutes ago, because when I do an apt-get install Docker Compose, it installed a version here on Ubuntu 18.04. Probably on Ubuntu 20.04, it's not the case anymore, which was outdated. So I actually had to install, I think, yeah, the latest Docker Compose. I installed it manually here. I also had HTTP running, just didn't remember how it was the process called, Apache 2. So it was running on port 80. And since we also started on port 80 and redirect to port 443, I got an error message. Oh, you already have something running on port 80. I checked that here. Let's see. I mean, right now it should be now the other one. Grep 80. Oh, there are many 80s here. Somewhere it must be. Yeah, Docker proxy. Yeah, whatever. I must have port 80 somewhere. Yeah, Docker proxy. That's the process running, and that's it. Just copy it. I get the cert. I mean, that's what I said. You actually need to copy to this directory, otherwise you cannot curl it. And you see, it's just an API call. I mean, we can go to the UI to do the same thing, but I just use the API. Let's see. And then I logged into this instance I just created. And you see that that's it. I mean, that was the manual installation. It's sometimes not bad to start with the manual one, right? Because you really see what's going on. If you do the Helm installation, it's also very simple. You just have to know a few things that, yeah, I think this is the command which actually, let's see, have it once more. Where is it? I think here, that's the Bitnami Harbor Helm chart. So, I mean, you have to set a few things. The storage class, maybe it's good if you need special storage for that. The service common name, and also the external URL. I mean, this is important, otherwise you cannot access it. So you basically set the properties. You do in this YAML file for the Helm configuration, you do it on the command line, or you create a values file, and that's it, right? And then the certificate, all this stuff is done internally. You don't have to handle that. The Helm chart is certainly easier to install than the one. So going back to what you said, if you have it installed, I mean, you might do a replication to your other registry and just try to get the stuff over. But you can also just upload the container images to your Harbor registry and configure it, right? I mean, as you have said, the user configuration did not work with the tokens from GitHub, but that's something we can actually, let's say, investigate and see if we can have it ready for the next office hours, maybe some new information. You also have the Harbor API, which is actually great because it's using how's it called? Yeah, Open API. And you can execute it here. You see all the stuff. I mean, replication, scheduling. Also, you can add robo accounts actually if you want to do some automation. I mean, there's a lot of here the robot stuff. So there's a lot of things going on there. I don't know the whole API, to be honest, because it's pretty overwhelming. Scanners, retention, how much you want to actually keep, because otherwise you will blow up your registry. And as you said, I mean, if you really try to go hard against the registry, I would really be interested also to see how much load it can actually handle. I mean, we do of course some testing, but I think some real use, some real use cases would be interesting to hear about if you move over. So yeah, that was just a quick introduction to how you can install it by hand. As I said, it just took a few minutes to do that with my commands I had here. And then you can play with it. Yeah, some other folks joined. Welcome.
Thank you. Hey, it's Jeff here, and Megan is also from same place I work. We work at HCL. And yeah, we did have a few questions, but we didn't want to cut in the line. So if anyone else was having questions, we can wait.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, welcome. And yeah, please, if you have questions, ask away.
Sure. So yeah, we are using Harbor now. We love it for both images and Helm charts. I was curious, I haven't seen it in the GitHub issue list. I was curious if it ever came up in the past about possibly supporting generic files. So we have a requirement to, in addition to Helm charts and images, also store some files like scripts or little helper tools. And in a perfect world, we could have one registry to rule them all. But if that's not in the plan ever, then we'll just stand up, I guess, a simple registry or simple file share registry and alongside Harbor.
So with the new OCI functionality within Harbor, I believe you can store pretty much anything you want.
Yes, we had looked at that, and it seems like to do that, you do need to wrap it in a bundle. So you would use a tool like ORAS, OCI registry as a service or whatever. And so our only issue with that is that has dependencies on the client. So it can't just be a simple, URL-based download. You need to have something on the client side to basically extract the actual file from the cloud. But yeah, so yeah, and I assume there's nothing in plan, or else it would be in GitHub anyway. So
yeah, I'm not aware of any plans, right? The question, of course, the team will ask us why you want to do that. You just put everything in a GitLab, GitHub repo and whatever, and do the versioning and all this stuff. Because if you would go down that path with Harbor, I mean, we are opening a huge valley, so to say, and I'm not sure that's really the goal of Harbor. But anyway, I took some note, and we'll see what our development teams tell us about that.
Yeah, and just to flesh out our use case a little more, so we are actually using Harbor to deliver cloud native artifacts to our customers. So we have Harbor integrated with Okta for user management, and so for us, we're going to need a generic file registry also integrated with Okta to let the specific customers that are entitled download these other tools I was mentioning, like simple scripts or helper tools or whatever. So yes, we could use sort of an anonymous read GitHub repo, but we have some artifacts that are not images, not Helm charts, but clients would still need to be able to pull. So that's really our use case. It's it's pretty simple for us to stand up a generic file share repo and do with Nginx or whatever, but yeah, I was mainly just curious if that was anywhere on your roadmap. Sounds like it's not, which is fine.
I would definitely open an issue and explain your use case, because that way we can track it and see if we can do something there.
Great, will do. The other question we had, we're just about to upgrade to 2.1. We're looking at it right now. We're on 2.0 now. Just curious if there's any gotchas or anything we need to worry about, or is it supposed to be pretty smooth?
How did you install it? Just maybe as the first, maybe just going 1 second back. I had other customers from us actually asking a few months ago, almost the same use case you were just describing. I just forgot it. So, I mean, it's something, you're not the first one actually trying or wanting to do that with the files, because they're also distributing actually files to their own customers and would like to do it the same. I mean, what would make sense to integrate Git with Harbor, and I mean, not reinventing the wheel, right? Just having another interface, and you don't have to care about Okta once more. It's just configured for you automatically, things like that. Anyway, it's a discussion we can have when you open the issue with the development team to see. And regarding updates, I said that before. I mean, when I showed the offline installer, the updates between intermediate versions, right, between GA version is not really tested, but between GA versions, there are heavy tests. I mean, they work. I'm not aware of any, because I'm updating. I think I just updated one 2 hours ago, and I didn't have any issues. But you never know, of course, right? I mean, maybe you have another other environment. And so, yeah, my question was, how did you install it? Did you use a Helm chart or the offline installer, or?
Yep. So we are running in GKE, and we did a Helm install.
Helm, yeah, okay. And did you use the Helm repo, the official one, or the Bitnami one, which is used a lot also by community folks?
Yeah, that's a good question. Megan, do you know?
I don't, but Shashank is also on. He should be able to answer.
Yeah, even I don't remember. That was a long time back.
Yeah. Because
anyway, we were going to test it ourselves, obviously, in a staging environment before upgrading. I was just curious if you knew of any kind of blockers or showstoppers that people are hitting.
No, I mean, technically the only thing which can go wrong is when we update the schema of the Postgres database or things like that. And but as I said, this is really tested from GA to GA release. So I'm not really expecting anything there. If you do what I did, do basically a weekly update, you can break things, right? Because this is not tested, and the schema upgrade can fail, and then your Harbor installation is messed up, and you don't know why actually, because you were just doing the update script for months and suddenly it breaks. Yeah, because you maybe just run into an update which is not tested because it's in between, right? But between GAs, honestly, I never had issues.
Great. Yeah, and we're looking forward to a few features in there. Like the one is because we host Harbor for customer download, we always kind of struggled in the past because the user got to pick their local Harbor username, which we didn't like. We always wanted it to be their email address. So It looks like with 2.1, we can now lock that down and just always make it the username in Okta, or the email in Okta, which is great. Yeah, perfect. Oh, and by the way, I didn't say off the top, awesome idea hosting these office hours, by the way. We're going to steal this idea for our own customers, because I think it's a great way to let customers drop in on their own time, and it also time boxes it for you guys. You guys are just on for 2 hours and you get back to work. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, and as I said, you can really ask for stuff for next time, maybe. I mean, so we can prepare, right? I mean, this time it was for me a little bit hard because I didn't know what I had to expect and what kind of questions. And of course, you don't know anything. No, we don't know everything. So sorry. So sometimes it's good if you can prepare for something. If you want to see, I mean, the one we just discussed with the token, that's actually a good one. We can try to figure out why it's not working, and the development team normally reacts pretty fast if there's a really use case behind it.
Yep. Okay, actually did have another question. I know there's an issue for this one. Sorry, maybe I have it here bookmarked. Oh, maybe I don't. There was an issue I saw got moved to 2.2 plan, and it was about more granular access control beyond just the project level. So I was curious if that work had started and if you knew what it might look like in the end.
Yeah, what kind of more granularity are you looking at or wishing for?
Yeah, so because we are using Harbor to support end users, our end users are entitled to different parts of our portfolio. And so in a perfect world, we would set up our Harbor registry to reflect that. And so users would get read access, and actually we do read access through Okta groups, but they would get read access to just the stuff they're allowed to download. And so today, the only way we can implement that is at the project level. So we have to have a separate project for everything that's separately titleable. If it was more granular than that, then maybe we could structure our projects by key function or by business group, business area, and we could actually control who can download what within a project. So we don't have really any expectations or requirements on how that might work. I was more curious just if you had an idea of how it might end up looking, or if it hasn't been started yet, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know, but what you say is basically request number one I would ask myself, right? I mean, you have a hierarchy, so you have customers and you have projects and business line, whatever inside a project, right? And you can give permissions to that. I know this discussion from OpenStack times many years ago. I mean, it was the same thing, how you structure all this stuff. I also made a note because I think that that's a very valid requirement you just mentioned, but I don't know actually about the work going on there. One question maybe I have, I don't know how many users are actually going through your Harbor registry. I mean, scalability limit. I had a discussion with customers, I think it was 3 years ago, when Harbor was absolutely not there yet, but other registries weren't either, even commercial ones. They really wanted to have quotas and limiting and whatever, and that actually is now in there. But I still think there could be some more things like network limits, whatever. I mean, did you run into any issues with that really customers are doing too much there? I mean, consuming too much space, uploading too many images, I mean, the API limits, so, or are you handling that differently?
Yeah, the only limits we would hit would be on the pull side, because we don't allow customers to push anything into Harbor. That's all us hosting content.
Okay.
And
yeah.
so, and from a push point of view, I don't think we've seen any performance issues or anything. We're hosting really large images. Like we have some ridiculously large images. Like one image I saw had 2 different layers that are each 5 gigs. So the one image on its own was like 12 or 13 gigs, just ridiculous. So we have work on our own to kind of clean up our own stuff. But from a pull point of view, yeah, it's basically just network. We have tests running every day, pulling stuff. I don't think we've seen any issues yet, but at the same time, we haven't scaled up to like thousands of users yet. We have a couple, and we're just getting going. So,
okay,
yes, at this point, maybe we need to start running some scalability tests.
Yeah, because the request I had 3 years ago was for 4,000 users, and I got a little bit nervous, right? I mean, 4,000 users going to one registry, that's not going to work, right? And you need rate limiting. Of course, you can do things, I mean, with overlays and networking. I mean, you can do stuff, but I think it should be part of Harbor also at some point. So, yeah, it was just a question.
Yeah.
Came to my mind.
Yeah, and another aspect of that, which probably doesn't matter to you guys too much, but to us it does, because we're hosting in GCP, and so we pay data transfer costs for every byte that gets transferred out of GCP into or out of that network into another network. And so, and we might have to find ways to limit customer pulls as well. Like if a customer creates their own CI/CD pipeline that pulls 1,000 times a day. That costs us money every time they do it. So yeah, we're going to have to look at that as well. So actually, on that point, has anyone talked about Harbor like in edge environments or in sort of like cloud delivery network type things, or pushing images out to geographically different regions, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, this is not community-minded, but I know VMware has published a white paper about edge deployments, and actually the Harbor use case is actually documented that the problem is, of course, if you have many edges, right? I mean, many locations, and you have maybe one central Harbor registry. I mean, you will get a lot of traffic. That's generally a problem, how to distribute things. But regarding distribution of images, there are many Harbor projects coming along, how to do that in a very efficient way. I mean, using peer-to-peer technologies, and I mean, not one-to-one push, right? So you just broadcast all this stuff somehow. I'm not sure what you're looking for. I mean, the rates and the amount of gigabytes you transfer to many locations, that could be overwhelming, right? Then you have to build maybe a cluster of local Harbor registries which are nearer to some of the endpoints to really distribute that. But I mean, that's a bigger project to design all this stuff.
Yeah, and actually some of our users, like we have the big enterprise customers, or our users like banks and all of that. A lot of them are very hesitant to allow their own employees to pull from public registries or even registries on the internet. So they host their own internal. So our hope is that, yes, we'll say, here's all our images for the product that you've just purchased, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, and your first operation is to replicate or clone the images to your local registry and then always pull from there. So we're hoping we can get there so that we don't incur the transfer cost every time they install a new version. So we'll see.
I mean, right now there are many API limits which are becoming active for Docker and GitHub.
Yes.
I can tell you, I run into this issue daily, and we're also trying to figuring out how to handle that with local Harbor instances and things like that for stuff we use all the time. Because all my little tests I do, I basically run into these limits all the time right now.
Yeah, and they set I was surprised at how low Docker Hub set the limits to. Like you can, as you said, you can hit them pretty easily. But I guess that's the other feature we get in 2.1, Harbor as a proxy cache for things. So yeah, we're looking forward to that too.
That's the most important feature ever. Yeah. I mean, because I was asking for that personally for years, actually. That's a big thing, because then you can also, I mean, scan all the images, even if they come from the internet. I mean, I'm always surprised how red all this stuff is, which I get it in my testing environments.
Yep, that's great. All right, well, I've talked a lot. Megan, Shashank, anything you want to ask?
Yeah, unfortunately for you guys, I do have another question. There's another issue we've hit, which I can paste the GitHub issue in so that you guys can take a peek.
Just one quick. So Jeff, you asked about scripts. So right now I'm chatting with the PM. Unfortunately, he's in another meeting. Otherwise, he would be here, because you all have fantastic questions. So scripts and standalone files, not right now. Focused on the OCI wrapper around it.
Yep, makes sense.
Sorry, Megan, go ahead.
No worries. So we initially started using Redis HA and ran into a login panic, and then backed off to using a single Redis. So the basic question is, have you guys looked at this issue? Any ideas on it? We would like to use the HA version, but I mean, we clearly have a workaround, but just wanted to know if there was an update.
Interesting. I wonder what the operator, the Harbor operator, which is now, let's say, being improved a lot, and how they handle that, because I mean, it looks like since we set up everything in an HA fashion, they will run into this issue. So yeah, this is, I mean, it's a pretty old one, actually.
I don't think, I'm looking through who has commented here. I don't think this is on the roadmap right now. I'm pinged the PM, Alex.
Okay. Yeah, and if it's helpful, we can always do some testing on one of our internal environments with 2.1 just to see what happens. But yeah, if you guys have any updates, that would be super.
Yeah, so any testing that you do would be fantastic if you add into the GitHub issue there. If it's error logs or success with the new version, that would be fantastic. But yeah, if you get some errors, absolutely put them in there. It would be fantastic to get more live use cases so we can dive deeper into it.
Will do.
Awesome, thank you.
I think that was it from us. We can stop pestering you guys, but we really appreciate it. And I echo Jeff's statements. This is really helpful. I'm excited for the office hour concept. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we're planning to do these at a recurring on recurring dates. Of course, we got a bunch of holidays and stuff coming up now here in the US, so it'll be a little broken up, but then we'll keep them going, and we'll make sure to have even more people that can answer questions as well.
Yeah, and I guess speaking of recurring, this might be somewhere on the Harbor project page. Is there a general time frame for new updates? Like, would 2.2 be expected in some time frame typically? Or is that just basically on feature and issue completeness, the dates get set?
So if you look at the roadmap, that's that kind of gives you a clearer view of when certain things will happen, not necessarily when a release will happen, but rather when a new larger feature will happen.
Okay.
So that will give you a bit more focus essentially. But 2.2 is essentially planned for the end of the year, I believe, and then the next one after that will be in March next year.
Oh, multi-tenancy. That sounds interesting for our use case. Okay.
Yeah.
Looking at December 2020. Yeah.
And these are, of course, tentative dates, and these are our wishes on the roadmap, things that we're working towards. So, yeah, future statements and all of that, disclaimers. But yeah, those are the things that we're focused on.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I see we have a new person joined as well, Sparta. If you have any questions, feel free to ask away. So I have one question for everyone here. I don't know if you have seen this, but we do have, I'll share my screen here so you can all see. It's a little better. We do have an adopters MD where we add in companies and organizations that are using Harbor in some way, and it would be fantastic if you would like to add yourself in here. This file essentially feeds the website as well. You can see a lot of companies here have added some success stories as well, such as, hey, we're running Harbor in production, serving images here from China Mobile, serving images to a container environment with over 1,000 nodes and about 20,000 images, and so on and so on. So if you would like to add your logo and maybe a success story as well, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'll take that. So, you know, Megan, Shashank, and I, the company we work at is huge. And there seems to be lawyers that pop up all the time with various concerns that I would never think of for putting logos on pages, but I will go see if we can make that happen.
Yeah, that would be awesome, because we're always looking for more use cases as well. And this is not just for this particular page or the website, but we also when we look at events going forward as well. So looking at KubeCon, right now we have KubeCon here in less than a month, just a few weeks away. And we're always looking for users of Harbor to come and present their use case. So for next year, if you would like to be co-presenting with the Harbor maintainers, kind of talk about your use case and things like that, we would love to have you as well.
Yeah, that sounds good too. Hopefully KubeCon next year is in person.
We'll see. Yeah, hopefully, yes.
Okay, so yeah, you guys are at KubeCon. I think several of us will be attending virtually, so we'll look out for your sessions.
That sounds great. That sounds great. Yeah, we're gonna keep the office hours open. If you want to, you can stick around, or you can absolutely drop off. It's a drop in, drop off theme here. We thank you all for your questions already.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'll drop off and I'll open an issue for the generic artifacts, and we'll talk again. Great.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.